What's up, YouTube family? I'm back at the drawing table. Welcome to my channel. For those who've been here before, welcome back. Today, I want to kind of talk to you about how you can go about practicing your anatomy, but kind of breaking it down a little bit, like because what we tend to do is like try to practice all of the anatomy and learn it all, but it would really serve you better to focus in on one particular area and maybe the surrounding areas. So I'm gonna kind of really go over how you can go about doing it, and then also how uh, you should think about your practicing as far as uh, breaking things down to like the simpler forms. So you want to have times where you maybe practice with more simplified forms to like just get your understanding of, say, maybe the shapes and the different things like that. The shape of like the overall big ideal as far as the shape of, in this video I'm gonna be going over like arms, kind of shoulder and arm area. So like the big idea of the shape of the arm and the shoulders, right? Versus moving all the way down to thinking about the shape of the individual like muscles within the arm, like because the shoulder area has its own shape and the bicep has its own shape. The muscles in the within the forearm has their own shape, right? So so you want to think about having time to practice more the simplified version all the way to the more detailed version where you can see all the different muscles and it's all important. So let's get into it. So when you drawing like this, what I'm doing is right now I'm trying to see where those muscles are, right? So this is a more kind of focused study of more of understanding uh, the muscles and where they are, their shapes and everything. So you want to have trainings like this where you just solely are more focused on understanding how the muscles or just the different whatever you're studying, how everything is really structured. And it's not so important how things look in this when you're drawing like this. Uh, it's more of your understanding. So when you're learning, um, you don't really have to focus on how well you draw it that much. It's more training your mind on the understanding of how to draw it in this stage, because getting better at drawing it would come especially with your when you understand it better. So um for example, like, well, I do another drawing right after this, but to show you what I mean. So I'm really focused on the like the shoulders. So I'm not really trying to put too much stock into the hand right now. So what I do is I acknowledge that the hand is there, so I kind of draw it, you know, a rough hand in, but I'm not really focus on it in this particular session, because you learn what you focus on. So, um, and you learn better when you focus on a smaller amount of things. So instead of trying to focus on the shoulder, arm, this, and the hand, I'm just focused more on the shoulder. What I like to do is kind of focus on a particular area and then the connecting pieces. So I would like kind of draw the shoulder and then the connection of the uh maybe the neck and the pectoral and then the arm. Right. So what I mean by, so this is like kind of a more like a more detailed drawing. It's not like super detailed, but enough to see where the muscles lie and everything, right? So you want to do training like this where you kind of get a little more focus like this, but also she was doing this same drawing. This is effective as well, and you want to do both of them, right? So if you did this same drawing, and instead of so much focusing on the detail of the muscles, right? Now you're focusing on the overall shape of each part of the arm and shoulder, right? So when you focus on the overall shape, things get way more simplified, right? So like that. Right. And either both of these are very important. So doing this is just as important as doing this and vice versa, right? Because you do need to be able to quickly identify, these shapes, like the shapes that the different parts of the body is making, like those overall quick shapes. But then you also want to know, especially depending on how uh, far you want to take the detail in your drawing. Like if you want to go like super ultra, like fantasy or realistic, where you can see all the muscles and that thing, um, those things. You want to know how the different pieces are shaped, right? Versus you was drawing like a more like simplified style. This you can kind of almost stop here if you do like really simple, like simple like manga comics or something, or like that simple animation, right? but but these are still important. You still need to know this, even to kind of simplify it, because you want to create, instead of like going in and like where you can see all these divides in the muscles. Right here you just kind of do like small indications of it, you know so this would be more for um like say if you wanted to, like was doing comic book characters, and you wanted to show like all their well developed muscle structure, you'll be kind of at this space, and then you can kind of go in deeper and you know say the shoulder, the depth, divide, division, just different things. So, but yeah, like, so let me do another one. This would be like a simple one. And each one of these, like, styles or learning um, styles or whatever, they they both have their advantages and disadvantages, which is why you want to do a mixture of both of them to get the full um, benefit from both, right? So the benefit of doing what I'm doing right now, this like quick, simplified. Kind of go into this other arm. The quick, simplified version is you can get the overall ideal, the big ideal, down very quickly. Like it shows you how to very quickly get the overall ideal down before you get into the detail, right? And also, since it's so fast, you could do so many of these um, very quickly, right? So it's it would be like almost uploading um, the very general knowledge of any subject, like um, the very general knowledge of any subject, like before you get into the crazy detail, but the stuff that you need to know before you get into the crazy detail, because like with any subject, right, or anything that you go deep in, if they just throw you off into the deep end of it, like say, well, let's just say swimming, since we got a deep end. If you never swim before, you're not a strong swimmer, and somebody throws you off into the deep end, you might start panicking, because you haven't learned how to swim, right? So what you want to do is kind of swim and get strong at swimming in the shallow water to where you could easily put your feet down if you get into trouble and stand up, right? uh Same thing with drawing, right? And then you just venture out into deeper and deeper waters. So um when you might get to where, okay, you get into deeper water where you put your you might can't put your feet down quickly and get out, and get above the water, but it might be just above your head to where you could put your feet down and jump a little bit, and then that'll get you out of the water. Or you're swimming close to the wall. I mean, that is generally what happens, right? You will get a little bit more confident in your swimming, but when you go into the deep end, you kind of stay closer to the wall, so you can grab that wall if you get into trouble, and then eventually you get out to where uh, it doesn't matter how deep you're swimming, because now you become like a strong swimmer. So the same thing with drawing like this. So doing this um, very quick practice like this kind of builds your understanding of the basic knowledge you need to venture out into more difficult parts of drawing. I know we always want to kind of skip this part, but It's because it's like the part that's like unfun or not as cool to do or to show off, right? We want to show off like our full rendered, fully developed pieces that people will marvel at, but this is where you learn how to achieve those. But so it's like you just got different levels of simplifications. So like this is a little more than this. Um, you can go even more simpler and just go, okay, that's the arm coming down off of the shoulder. There's a shoulder blade back there. And we got this forearm area coming off of here. And bam. Right. Quickly draw a finger in here. And there you go. That's like really simple. You can even kind of go a little bit more simpler than that and just be like, we got this and that. All these are training your brain to do the same thing but different things, right? Like this reinforces the whole shape of doing all of this, right? It reinforces it. This shows you like, okay, this is in the simplest form, this is what we have, right? And then this takes it a tad bit deeper, like showing you like a little bit of separation with like, okay, you got the shoulder, the elbow, the forearm, it's different pieces. Then here we kind of getting into, okay, these are different pieces, but now they're we get into the kind of dimensionality of the pieces. Right now we're showing that, okay, but these are cylinders, these have some dimension on it, right? This is kind of like the more 3D version of this, right? You kind of move from here to here, like now we showing some dimension in this, right? We showing some volume in it, right? Then here we getting like to the point of these shapes. This is the overall shape, but now it's more detail in these different sections, right? Because the shoulder has its own little shape, and then the bicep has its own shape, and the triceps has its own shape, and then the forearm and different muscles in the forearms have their own shape, right? And you just kind of getting a little bit deeper into it, and then you just go deeper and deeper till you end up here, and then from here it'll be going like more super detailed, where you can see like all the like bone nodules or the striations in the muscles, depending on what's going on with what you're drawing, like how much detail, like how much definition they have in their arms and shoulder. But you just keep take it deeper and deeper, right? But You want to know this first to get here, right? What happens a lot of times is we jump here. Let's say if you jump here, what happens? Um, a lot of times is your proportions get out of whack. So what happens with a lot of artists is they they're like focused on this detail, right? And they're focused on rendering, and they able to. I don't even know if I might actually do this right. I'm trying to mess it up, but they may be able to kind of get this detail right, so they understand the detail, but um, let me see, mess this up. But now their proportions are kind of out of whack, right? Because now this doesn't flow well into like this muscles here doesn't flow well into where the elbow would be, so these proportions are off, right? And maybe this might be too high, like things just kind of get out of whack. So this this simplification, knowing how to do these simplifications, keeps your proportions together. It's like the glue that holds everything together. And then once you get that glue, you're not running into this problem of like having something that's maybe nicely rendered, but it's off, right? Because your proportions are wrong. Because it's better to have a drawing that's not rendered as nicely, but the proportions are on point. Trying to make this bad. The proportions are on point. Uh, that'll be a better drawing than having one that the proportions are all out of whack on. But the key into this type of training is to, not focus on too much. Just kind of stay in the general area and not move. I know we kind of try to do more things, like we can do more things at once, but that actually slows us down. So instead of, it's kind of like our brains can't multitask, right? And everybody wants you to multitask, really, but what happens when you try to multitask is your brain just uh, switches from one task to another, but it doesn't. What happens is you end up doing the different tasks not to your full potential. You end up you just end up not doing each task well, so you get like kind of mediocrity out of both of the tasks, versus if you would have just time spent the time on the one task and got to a finish on that task, or a stopping point. Because you can you can have multiple projects, but get to that stopping point on one before you move to the next one, where you're spending a lot of time actually um, on that particular project, to where you can get some quality work done, instead of spending like 20 minutes here on this project and switching because somebody said, hey, this is due, So you got to go spend a few minutes on that project and switch off and switch back on. It would serve you much better to try to spend most of that time on the one project at a time, or the one task at a time. So, but like I said, like when doing this, you're not really focused that much on how it looks, right? It's more you're training your brain, more like your vision, doing this type of practice. You're just kind of trying to figure out, uh, where things go. How to go about drawing them. What shapes do they make? Right. And doing this is kind of like a quick hand to drawing and kind of getting the vision down instead of spending all of your time operating at a level higher than this, because like this, I would say that like in practice, as far as like trying to understand, like say the anatomy, um this is kind of about as far as you need to go as far as just regular practice, right? Now, once you get this down, super down or whatever, or you doing a project, you do want to practice your rendering skills, right? And kind of get deeper into, the shading and, the rendering of it. But as far as just kind of getting the understanding of how things work, you don't want to, like, you're not trying to spend all this time doing this rendering and making it look cool, because what you could be doing instead is spending, you could do this like 3, 4, 5 times and get a much better understanding of this structure, instead of trying to focus on doing this drawing to this level and then switching to doing the rendering of the drawing, because now you're switching modes. So if you stay in this mode of trying to understand like the shapes, the overall structure, the forms of the different muscles, or whatever level you're trying to take it to, if you stay there and you just keep going, you can get a much better understanding of this, right? And you'll just get faster and faster of at putting this down. And then you would do like a whole another session entirely kind of to practice on your rendering. So you want to just separate things. I hope this helped you. Try to find a way to practice more efficiently instead of bouncing around from body part to body part. What you could do is just kind of start to focus in on one area. How I like to think about it is focus in on the main thing I'm focusing on. Like, so in this case, we're kind of focusing on the shoulder and then a connecting piece, like the connecting pieces of it. So I go down to the arm, like I just do like kind of the shoulder and the arm. So these two, like, so this is my major and these are my like minor, right? And I bring it down and I'll acknowledge that the hand is there, but I'm not really trying to put that much brain power into the hand. So I go down this way. So the shoulder, you got two sides of connection. So you go down this way to the biceps, triceps, forearms, and then you go up to like the neck area and the pecs area. So for example, I did this. This is also part of my shoulder practice today. So I did these, right? So I was kind of getting more into this, getting into the pecs and all these connectors, right? I'm still keeping this my main focus. See all these drawings. Then I'm like drawing the different views of it, because this is kind of one of the hard things about drawing is like you got like all these different angles that you can see this one theme for it. So you want to be able to draw shoulders with the arm kind of coming straight out in front of the body or out to the side from the back view. How it looks if the hand is like supinated, like up like this versus pronated. Like it's just so many views that you have to consider. But yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today. I will catch you on the next one. As always, I'm glad to be in your service, and peace.